You know, you turn on the news and all you hear is how great everything is. Record-breaking markets, right? But there's a much darker story unfolding just beneath the surface. It's kind of like a hidden economic crisis, and today, we're gonna pull back the curtain on it.
I mean, on the surface, everything seems fantastic. The stock market's hitting all-time highs, people are saying inflation is cooling down, and hey, Arby's just dropped steak nuggets. So what could possibly be wrong? Well, that shiny exterior is hiding a really serious problem.
Because if you dig into the analysis we're covering today, we're actually in the first act of what you could call a financial zombie apocalypse. And it's a crisis that's being fueled by a gigantic amount of hidden debt that honestly, most people are completely missing.
So to really get what's happening, we have to look past those happy headlines and meet the main characters in this whole drama, the financial zombies.
Okay, so what exactly is a zombie company? It's actually pretty simple. It's a business that literally doesn't make enough money to even cover the interest payments on its own loans. It's not turning a real profit, so the only reason it's still around is because it can just keep borrowing more and more cheap money. You should really think of it as a business on permanent life support, kept breathing only by a constant drip of new debt.
So, how did we end up with thousands of these zombie companies just shambling around the economy? Well, to answer that, we have to go back to the source of the infection, a long era of near-zero interest rates.
For the better part of a decade, and especially after 2020, money was practically free. I mean, look at this timeline. Central banks slammed interest rates down to the floor to get the economy going again after the 2008 crisis. The problem? They just kind of left them there for years, and that created this perfect environment where these zombie companies couldn't just survive, they could multiply.
This slide uses two just brilliant analogies to explain this whole thing. The global economy was basically running on what some people call Japanese Wi-Fi. That's borrowing money in Japanese yen at almost 0% interest. For companies, this meant it was like a permanent Black Friday sale where credit was basically 90% off. That allowed even the weakest, sickest companies to stay afloat on all this cheap debt.
And this whole easy money thing, it wasn't just for corporations. It totally mirrors what was happening at the government level. The United States has now blown past a staggering $38 trillion in national debt. That's more than any nation in human history.
And this right here really illustrates the cost. We are now spending over $1 trillion a year just on interest payments for that debt. I mean, look at this chart. That interest is one of the biggest and fastest growing expenses in the entire federal budget. It's more than we spend on national defense. Just let that sink in.
So the foundation of our economy is built on this mountain of cheap debt. But that era, it's over. Interest rates are up, and that brings us to the ticking clock that is about to go off for all these zombie companies, something called the debt rollover.
Let's break down exactly what a rollover is. It's actually pretty simple. First, a company's old, super cheap loan expires. Step 2, because they don't have the cash to just pay it back, they have to take out a new loan. And step 3, that new loan comes with today's much higher interest rates.
This slide shows the trap perfectly. Before, a company could get by just fine rolling over its debt at pretty much 0% interest. It was easy. But now they have to roll it over at 5%, maybe more. For a company that was already barely making its payments, this is just a massive shock to the system.
And that brings us to this absolutely crucial point from the source material. For these zombie companies that have only ever known a world of free money, 5% interest rates aren't just an inconvenience. They are, and I'm quoting here, a death sentence they can't afford to sign.
Okay, so why should you care about any of this corporate debt rollover stuff? Because this isn't just some abstract problem on Wall Street. The same forces that created these zombies have been warping the entire economy, and now the cracks are starting to affect all of us.
You probably know somebody like Dave, right? Dave started investing a couple of years ago, and since everything he bought just went up, he thinks he's some kind of genius, a real market wizard. But here's what Dave doesn't get. He wasn't necessarily a genius. The entire market was just set to easy mode, propped up by the exact same cheap money that kept all the zombies alive. And when that river of money dries up, well, easy mode gets turned off. This all leads to something the source calls a mirage recovery. You know, it's when the big headline numbers that everyone on TV cheers for, like low unemployment, look fantastic, but they completely hide the systemic rot that's happening just beneath the surface.
This table breaks down the mirage perfectly. We're told we have low unemployment, but what's hidden is that 1.6 million people have just given up and stopped looking for work altogether. We're told we have a strong job market, but if you look closer, you see full-time careers getting swapped out for part-time gig work. And we're told the consumer is resilient, but that spending is increasingly fueled by these debt traps like buy now, pay later.
So what's the real danger here? Well, it isn't necessarily a sudden, loud crash like in the movies. It's a quiet, gradual crisis. The bond market, which is like the very backbone of our financial system, is showing some serious signs of stress. The duct tape holding this whole thing together is starting to peel away. And those official numbers we rely on, they're often designed to hide these cracks until it's just too late.
So, while the stock market is partying like it's 2 a.m. in Miami, the real question is for you. Are you paying attention to the cracks forming beneath the surface? Because eventually the music is going to stop, and it's probably worth asking yourself if you're prepared for what comes next.